Hello everyone, Professor Hartman here again. Our next question we're going to answer here is why keystone species are so important. First of all, we've got to understand what a keystone species is. Now, many areas around the world have organisms that provide all sorts of help to other organisms in their habitat. So what I've done is I've gone online and I have some images here that will help you understand what a keystone species is and why they're so important. So the first organism we're going to take a look at is the gopher tortoise. Now the gopher tortoise is an endangered species in Florida, and it's losing its habitat, and it's being preyed on by all sorts of non-native species like coyotes, and it's in peril. It's a sad thing. So here we have the gopher tortoise, and what this organism does is it will dig a burrow, dig a hole in the ground, and provide not only a home for itself, but it will provide a home for all sorts of other organisms like snakes and mice and the little burrowing owl and all sorts of insects and everything basically that needs a home underground. It will cohabitate with the gopher tortoise. And the gopher tortoise is the keystone species because it provides the habitat, the housing basically, for these other organisms to live. So these other organisms depend on the gopher tortoise for housing. And when you have a wildfire, these burrows are down in the ground where it's nice and cool, and the fire will just burn everything above, and all those little organisms will go down into the gopher tortoise hole. Even though they may be a prey organism or a predator, they will live together without eating each other, until the fire goes over and everybody comes back out. And it's kind of a unique situation that develops there between all those organisms during times of extreme cases like fire and storms and things like that. Okay, the next keystone species I have is the alligator. The alligator is a keystone species in our freshwater wetland habitats. The alligator digs these what we call gator holes with its tail. It digs out deep areas in the lake or in the marsh or in the pond. And when we have a dry season, all of the fish and the birds and the insects and snakes and all sorts of other organisms depend on alligator holes for survival, because without water all of those organisms would perish. So this is our keystone species for our wetlands, the American alligator. Now, you might not think about plants being a keystone species, but we do have our mangrove ecosystem. And these are trees. These are mangroves. And they see how they have these long extensions. These are, extensions out into the mud, and these are their root systems. Well, there are several types of mangroves, but as far as we're going to talk today, these mangroves are trees that help to provide shelter and protection to all sorts of juvenile fish and juvenile crocodiles. These are in the saltwater marshes, and they are along the brackish intercoastal waterways. And we're at low tide here, of course. That's why you can see all of these roots that go down and provide a network of areas here. When the tide comes up, all of these areas here can be safe places for the baby fish and all these juvenile organisms to search for food and to grow up. And so this is how a plant can serve as a keystone species, because without these mangrove habitats, the juvenile species would not have a place to grow up. So I hope you all have learned something here today about keystone species and why they're important. And these are just 3 examples. There are many examples. So I encourage you to go out on the internet and look up keystone species and review them, and hopefully take care of these areas and these organisms. Be careful when you drive. Be careful you don't run over this little guy here. He's suffering. Anyway, hope you have a good day. Until next time.